What up, guys? It's your boy Quake, and today I'm going to be talking about a controversial topic. Is Drake a culture vulture? Yeah, I'm going
I'm
there.
waiting for it. I'm ready for it. Not waiting for it, but I'm ready for it.
Okay, so first, let's break it down. What the fuck is a culture vulture? Well, great question, Timmy. Let me explain that to you. It's a term used in hip hop and just in other places in general. I think hip hop uses it the most, though, but essentially, they're two words just put together. Vulture. What does a vulture do? It swoops down, takes your shit, and then flies the fuck off. Never talks to you, never explains why, just steals your shit. Whether you have some shiny diamond on the ground, whether you have some food, whatever it is, they take it and they use it to benefit themselves. Culture is just something that humans sort of created in a group, that they celebrate certain events, certain things all together in one. That's essentially what a culture is. So that's, to break it down, that's what a culture vulture is. Somebody who takes from certain areas of the world or art forms and uses it to identify themselves, to benefit themselves without giving back or sort of acknowledging where it originally came from. Now that the definition is out the way, is Drake truly a culture vulture? Now, there's two ways you can look at this, because he is and he isn't. Because in hip hop, there is a lot of sampling going on, a lot of flows being taken. Now, granted, if this was the 80s in hip hop, this would not be tolerated. This would definitely not be tolerated. Artists would have had you out fucking kicking the door right now and you wouldn't be relevant at all. But we're in 2017, so things have changed. Now, in Drake's early career, I loved him. He sort of pushed the envelope in hip hop. He delivered something that we haven't heard done well in a long time. And what that was essentially rapping and singing and doing them both well. Now, Ja Rule used to do that, but Ja Rule's singing is nowhere as good as Drake's is. Ja Rule sounded like the fucking Cookie Monster, and 50 Cent was right when he said that. He does sound like the fucking Cookie Monster when he sings. But that's beyond the point. Drake sort of brought that into hip-hop and brought it to a more mainstream level and made it to where it sounded very good. Chamillionaire used to do that too. He would rap and sing, but Chamillionaire isn't as big as what Drake is right now, so Drake managed to bring it to a higher and better, more appreciated level. He was doing different things, and he sort of brought hip-hop to accept people as they are. Drake wasn't pretending to be somebody he's not. He was an actor on Degrassi, played as Wheelchair Jimmy, never sold drugs, never shot a gun, and he just was himself as an artist. That wasn't accepted in hip-hop that much, even though a lot of it was about keeping it real, but a lot of what was popping at the time was artists who are gangster, who's been in the streets, who've sold drugs, who've shot guns, who've done all that. And Drake was someone who, openly admitted he did not do any of that. And he spoke his truth. So whether people liked it or not, you had to respect the fact that he spoke his truth. And that was the great thing. That was the great thing early in his career. He pushed the envelope lyrically, singing-wise, and everything else. But as time went on and he became one of the biggest artists, he needed sort of guidance and to be pushed, it seemed like, because he started following trends of other artists. Migos, when they came out, he jumped on their record, used them at the time to become hotter. He also jumped on Future's Tony Montana, and then he was on I Love McConaughey's Tuesday, which was a record that was already popping, and then Drake just jumped on it to use to gain more momentum and buzz for himself, which is fine. That's a smart thing to do, but he didn't acknowledge where some of these artists, he didn't sort of help any of these artists anymore after that. He just sort of jumped on the record, and then if it popped off, he was very appreciative and then never talked to them again or really associated with them again. And a lot of these artists complain about that. But then again, it's business. It's the music industry. He's not here to be friends with people, and most people aren't. So at least he's keeping it real on that end. Now, where his career really took a sort of shift and where people started questioning him more and more was when the beef with Meek Mill started. When Meek Mill openly told Twitter and just the world that Drake doesn't write his own lyrics, that's where he started getting more flack and it started affecting his career more and more and more. And that's where all the questions started spewing. And I think Meek Mill, we can talk about this in another video, but I think Meek Mill really tainted his career by doing that, because 10 years from now, people are going to constantly question whether Drake wrote his own material or not, regardless if it's on the album credits or not. So for that, Quentin Miller cloud is forever going to be hanging over him. And I think that's where people started shifting on Drake. But the first time that Drake really got caught red-handed, stealing lyrics and sort of being a culture vulture, was when YG's Who Do You Love record came out in 2014. And on Drake's verse, it's almost word for word, besides a few end rhymes, I guess, he changed. And he took those lyrics from Rappin' Forte's 1994 song, Players Club. You can literally, if you listen to both records and both of their verses, you can hear that Drake took it word for word. And I'll leave a link in the description, and you guys can check out the video. In that video, it shows Rappin' Forte's verse and Drake's verse. And clearly you can tell it's been taken word for word. So much so that Rappin' Forte ended up suing Drake for $100,000 and actually won the lawsuit. So that alone says a lot. And the second major incident where Drake got accused of stealing lyrics and becoming a culture vulture was when Drum had the record Cha Cha. And that record had the same cadence and I think samples for Drake's Hotline Bling. And so much so that I remember when the first time Hotline Bling came out, Drake actually dropped the name title Hotline Bling and then put in parentheses Cha Cha Remix. A lot of people did that. I don't know if it was Drake himself, but bloggers in general did that. And now more recently, Drake has been using other cultures such as dancehall and UK grime to progress his music. For the dancehall music, he was taken from Jamaicans, and on records like One Dance and Controller, you can hear the dancehall influence in his music. So you could either argue that he's bringing it more to the mainstream or that he's using it for his progression in music. Another thing that he's used just more recently on the More Life project is the exploitation of UK grime music. He put the artist Gibbs on the project, but on top of that, he's been using a lot of their sound in terms of beats and cadences and flows. And a lot of people begin upset about that, and especially UK artists, that he's sort of exploiting them, taking their sound, bringing it to the US, and claiming that it's his. Now, there are multiple ways to look at this. Like I said, you can either say Drake is smart for taking people's sound and running off with it, or you could say Drake is trying to progress the sound and get people more exposed to the sound. Now, in 90s hip-hop, there were a lot of artists that would sample beats and stuff like that, but not a lot of flows were taken. If flows were taken in the 80s and 90s in hip-hop, you would have been out of here as an artist. They would have not approved of you, and they would have not listened to your music. They would have called you fake and all kinds of things. But clearly we're in a different era. So what do you guys think? Do you think Drake is a culture vulture, or he's just using things to progress his music in a smart way? Leave a comment below, like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.